Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me well? If you can hear me, please type yes into the chat window so that we can start. Okay, good morning. Trương. Who else? Xuân Thảo. Who else? Quế. Okay, good. Trang. Banan. Good, good. So you can hear me well. Now, just another quick question. Where are you now attending this online sessions? Are you at home or are you in an internet cafe or are you somewhere else? Please type that into the chat window. Okay. So most of you are from home. Good. Now, so our online learning session today will be about another two theories of cognitive semantics that we have been discussing so far. They have to do with the principles of meaning being encyclopedic and semantic meaning is conceptual in structure. Before we start the topic, can you type into the chat windows the topic of cognitive semantics that we discussed last time? Okay, what was the topic that we discussed with each other in room C507 last time? You still remember? Now come on. We learned the theory of Johnson. Okay. Good. Thank you, Quế. Last time we discussed the idea of embodiment, of meaning being embodied. Semantics meaning and linguistic meaning has a lot to do with our bodily interaction with the world around us, and we discussed in details the theories of image schema by Johnson. Now, in the session today, we will focus on the semantic frames theories of Charles Fillmore, and then we go on exploring the domain theory of Langacker. Basically, these two theories have a lot in common. So in the last slide, I will just talk a little bit about the domain theories and point out the possible differences between the two theories. Now, so the cognitive semantics suggests that there is a very big difference between the two kinds of meaning, dictionary meaning and encyclopedic meaning that were treated in the traditional semantics. In the viewpoint of traditional semantics, meaning should be divided into two parts. the core meaning is the meaning that we have, the meaning that we can look up in dictionary, and the encyclopedic meaning, the kind of meaning that can only be understood within the communication context, within the cultural background. And in traditional semantics, dictionary meaning is the only focus of study in their coverage area. According to the dictionary review, word meanings are stored in our minds exactly the same way they are stored in a dictionary. I mean, they have properties that define what they can be used for, where they can be used. The core meaning of a word is defined as the informations that we find in the word definitions, and encyclopedic meaning are the kinds of meaning that we can understand only within context, only with our knowledge background. Will be explored in another subject called pragmatics. Well, later we will have an activity to learn about the differences between semantics and pragmatics. But basically, pragmatics is an area of linguistics that study the use of language in actual context. So what you have learned so far about speech checks in discourse analysis is a very good example of speech checks theories. Now, so the traditional view of semantics claim that there is a sharp distinction, a sharp difference between our knowledge of word meaning and our knowledge about how contextual factors may influence the linguistic meaning. And therefore, our knowledge of word meaning is different, is separate from the cultural, social, and physical knowledge. Now, before we move on further, have you ever heard about pragmatics before? Yeah. So I will type it here. Now just say yes or no into the chat window. Have you ever learned about pragmatics? Good. Great. So what do you call it in Vietnamese? Oh, you have learned it. So what do you call pragmatics in Vietnamese? Okay, great. Now, so in the next activities, let's do this. I want you to make some notes about the differences between pragmatics and semantics, because they will very much point to the differences between semantics, between the dictionary view of meaning and the encyclopedic view of meaning. So you can use Google, or you can based on what you have already known about pragmatics. Go to the website that I have provided the link on the screen, and click on the on the screen of padlet.com to make a sticky note. I want to see the differences that you can find out between pragmatics and semantics. Now, both these areas of linguistic studies meanings of words and meanings of language expressions, but there are several differences that we need to pay attention to. Okay, so I give you 5 minutes to do this, and now Going to padlet.com. /war/Vũ Nguyễn3. Well, let me turn up the webcam so that you can all hear me well. I want to make sure that our connection is in the best condition. Good. Somebody has posted a little note into our share notes, but I want to see your post in the padlet.com. This is a great platform for sharing ideas and collaborating online. Okay, I can see some notes coming. So semantics deal with the questions of meaning, while pragmatics deal with the question of use. Good. So that's the big difference. Are there any other differences that you can point out? Okay, somebody is typing in. Pragmatics view language in relation to contextual elements. Semantics see language. What's next? Okay, good. Please keep posting. I can see about 3 complete posts already on the screen. Great. More's coming. Yeah, good. I love the example. Pig can fly. It's quite clear. Why it is illogical semantically? Okay, it makes sense pragmatically. Okay, so I have just trained the layout of our page so that you can see the post in a neat format. Okay, so Sun Thao has just brought up a very interesting point about denotation and connotations. And denotation, well, we will explore these two concepts in the next activity very soon, but it's right. Semantic has to do with denotation and pragmatics will do with connotation. We will look at some example via the online quiz pretty soon. The pig can fly, as I have just mentioned, is also a good example showing the difference between semantics and pragmatics. Okay, so thank you everybody for the great posts on the wall. I will leave them here so you can come back later to read your friend posts and see how these two areas of linguistics different. Their differences very much aligned to the differences between dictionary view of meaning and encyclopedic view of meaning that we are discussing. Now let's go back to our AnyMeeting website. Now, so are you on back here? Everybody? Can you see the next slide? Problems with dictionary view. Now if you can see the next slide and you can follow me, okay, please type yes. Okay, good. Now they have several problems with the dictionary view of meaning. To begin with, the strict separation and distinctions of lexical knowledge from world knowledge make it quite hard sometimes to decide okay, whether a type of meaning is core or non-core, whether a kind of meaning is semantic, motivated or pragmatically motivated. Well, you can take the example of the lexical item home as illustrated on the screen. Home can be, well, literally a place where we live. It's a place for us to reside. And home, another popular aspect of meaning, also refers to a family, the feeling of comfort, security, of being with the people that we love. So in the previous activity, we have looked at the concepts of denotation and connotations. Let's do a little quiz to see how well you know these two concepts. Okay, now on the screen now you should see a poll or a quiz actually, and I want you to let me know which word can fit into the plan to complete the sentence that has positive connotations. Okay, so I want you to select a word to fill in the blank that has positive connotation. Looks like you are all voting for determine. Okay, positive connotations. Now select the word that has positive connotation. Okay, so the majority of you choose determined, which is yeah, okay, we get the correct answer. Now, of the four lexical items here, determined is the one that has positive connotations. Now let's try with another quiz. Now, this time, I want you to choose for me a lexical item that has neutral connotation. Okay, neutral connotation. Now, which word can come into the blank that and that has neutral connotation? Okay, so A votes for subjective and okay, 5 votes for slanted. Well, slanted has a little bit, negative meaning in this sense when it is used to talk about fairness. So the best options, okay, in this case, if we want a neutral uh, lexical item, then it should be subjective. Okay, so that should be our answer. Now, so let's come back. Let's come back to our class. The biggest problem with the dictionary review of meaning is that the dictionary review of meaning try to make a clear-cut distinction between the semantic meaning and the pragmatic meaning as we have discussed. And according to this view, as a result, words can be defined independently of the context. And this is the viewpoint that was strongly rejected by cognitive linguists like Charles Fillmore and Langecker, as we see later in their theories. According to these two researchers, meaning of words cannot be understood independently of the frame that it is bounded within, that it is connected within, and when we impose a distinction between semantics and pragmatics, it will result in an artificial boundary between these two types of meaning. Sometimes the differences can only be clearer with reference to the context. You cannot understand meanings of word in isolation from context. And according to cognitive semanticists, there should be no distinction between the two areas. Instead, cognitive semantics and pragmatics form a continuum to describe meaning, and that's the reason why in this course, cognitive linguistics, we will not discuss cognitive pragmatics. So as a rule of thumb, you can understand that from the viewpoint of cognitive linguistics, there is no boundary, there is no distinction between core and non-core meaning, between semantic meaning and pragmatic meaning. Now, the encyclopedic view of meaning, by contrast, states that there is no difference between the two, and the lexical items that we use and we produce when we speak a language are actually points of access to our vast repositories of background knowledge, our encyclopedic knowledge. For example, when I say England, okay, what comes to your mind? Please type into the notes page. Now, can you see the notes? So open the note page. Yeah, I want you to type in, okay, the note page, whatever come into your mind when I say the word England to you. Okay, the Queen, smoke. What else? Hooligan. Okay, football hooligan. Good. What else? Fork. Okay. What else? Well, there are lots of things you can refer to. Yeah, the language that you are learning, English. What are the others? Fish and chip. Okay. Favorite dish of British people. Okay, the Jack Union. Okay, the national flag. Bread. Okay. The food of the country. Okay, now you see, this is a very good example of how any lexical item can be a point of access to our vast repository of background knowledge. So when I say England, we can have access to other knowledge, like what we know about the Queen, what we know about the weather of England, what we know about the sports, their favorite sports, about their language, about their food, things like that. So that's a very good example. Now let's come back. Now please turn off the notes. Please close the note window so that we can be back. So lexical items, as you see in that example, are points of access to encyclopedic knowledge. And encyclopedic knowledge, this knowledge is dynamic. I mean, as you know more about England, your understanding, your knowledge about this lexical item will increase. For example, when you travel to England, you will know more about the different places, how London is like, how Cambridge is like, whether people in London are more friendly or whether people in Cambridge are more friendly. London and Cambridge, which city is more modern, which city is traditional? Things like that, will keep being added to your knowledge, and that's what is meant by encyclopedic knowledge is dynamic. And lastly, this point of view see our encyclopedic knowledge as being structured. That means it has several components that we can put our fingers on, and this is the theories suggested by Langacker. He claims that we can have at least, or we can see at least 4 different kinds of knowledge that make up our encyclopedic network. The boundary between these 4 types of knowledge can be overlapping sometimes, but as you can see on our screen, for all lexical items, we have conventional knowledge, we have generic knowledge, we have intrinsic knowledge and characteristic knowledge. Now, conventional knowledge is defined as the kind of knowledge that is widely known and shared among the members of speech communities. For example, okay, look at the image of the apple on your screen. Now, the conventional knowledge about apple that all of us know is that apples are eaten as a food, and it can be eaten either alone or other kinds of foods in the meal. So apples can serve as desserts. It can be served as snacks between meals, or it can be, cut into small pieces and make salad. Apple can also be made into pie. Well, that's our conventional knowledge. Generic knowledge is the kinds of knowledge that help us to understand the general characteristics, and we usually use this to contrast with what we know specifically about something. Now, let's go back to our example of the apple. The generic knowledge about apple for all of us is that red apples, ripe apples, red. And so in that, okay, the apples are ripe and ready to eat. Now, we know that red apples usually taste better and sweeter than they are sweeter than green apples. Intrinsic knowledge is the kinds of knowledge that come from the form, okay, of the object, and it relates to the internal properties. So our intrinsic knowledge about the apple, okay, is that apples can be served as a snack between meals. We do not need to make any special preparations. We do not need to cook. We do not need to use any special tools to eat the apple. And this is the kinds of understanding, the kinds of knowledge that is applied, okay, to these kinds of fruits alone. And lastly, characteristic knowledge is the kinds of information that is unique, okay, to the object or the entity. Going back to the example of apples. Now, the characteristic knowledge of the apple, okay, for us is that the shape of the apple, when you cut them into halves, you have the shapes of two very special curves. Now, that kind of knowledge or that kind of understanding is, unique to this entity or to this object. We also know that, okay, apples is a kind of fruit that can fit nicely into our hand, and they are light. That can also be a characteristic knowledge. Now, as I have told, it may sound a little bit confusing because the boundaries between the four different types of knowledge sometimes may not be very clear. But the contribution of Langecker is that he has pointed out how encyclopedic knowledge is structured, okay, as claimed in the last point of this slide. Okay, so with discussion on the distinction between dictionary meaning and encyclopedic meaning, and how encyclopedic knowledge is structured, we are now ready to discuss the semantic frames. Now, just a little check. Do you have any questions before we move on? If you do not have any question, just say no into the chat window. If you have, then don't hesitate. Okay, good. You know, I do not see you face to face, so it's important for you to give me feedback. Okay, so no questions so far. Good. Now, so frame semantics is the theories of cognitive semantics suggested by Charles Fillmore, and I'm pretty sure that you are now familiar with the name because we have mentioned him several times in our recent discussions. Now, a frame is a schema. Basically, it's a schematization of experience, and it is at the conceptual level. So that means it's the abstract. You cannot have any concrete image of it, but it's a kind of, you know, a network of concepts that are stored in our long-term memory. Now, Charles Fillmore claimed that meaning associated with a particular word can't be understood without, you know, referring to the frame that it is associated with. And in order to explain his theories, Fillmore also makes a clear distinction between figure and ground. So the figure essentially is a particular concept that needs the ground, and the ground here is very much the background frame that helps us to understand the figure. Now you can understand you can understand, okay, these two concepts by recalling the example of the radius, okay, being the figure, and the circle being the ground that we have already discussed in our face-to-face classes. Now, by now, I want you to make friends with very famous figure in cognitive linguistics. George Lakoff, and you're gonna hear him talking about frames. Now, can you see George Lakoff on the screen, okay, in the YouTube windows? Say yes or no into the chat window so that I can. Okay, good. Now, so this video clip is 5 minutes in length, but we will see only the first part, in which George Lakoff talks about semantic frames. Now, I want you to try to answer these questions. What are the elements of the hospital frame? So let me type that keyword here. Right. So George Lakoff, in his presentation, gave us an example of the hospital frame. So try to, okay, list down, okay, the elements inside that frame. The elements that help us to understand the concept. Now, by the way, George Lakoff is one of the founding figure of conceptual metaphor. He's, okay, you know, world class, okay, very famous linguist in cognitive linguistics, and he's currently a professor at the University of Berkeley in California.
TV, the world is thinking.
Framing is the most ordinary thing you do. You think in terms of structured, useful frames, and let me tell you just a bit about it. The work on this was done in the mid-1970s. 1974, frame analysis by Irving Goffman came out. 1975, the linguistic work of Charles Fillmore. Goffman looked at institutions and studied them by actually working in them. He worked in an insane asylum and in Las Vegas as a croupier in order to study them. Very serious research. Had to go to Las Vegas. Very scholarly. Now, what he discovered was this. Every institution is structured by a frame, and it has two parts. Roles or frame elements. For example, take a hospital. You have doctors, patients, nurses, orderlies, receptionists, instruments like scalpels, places like operating rooms. Those are the frame elements. Then there are scenarios. What happens in this frame? So you know that surgeons operate on patients with scalpels and operating rooms, right? And lots of other things happen in the frame. So that is what a frame is, and you know the boundaries. For example, you walk into the hospital to visit a friend. You go to the reception desk, there's a doctor lying there, they hand you a scalpel, and they say you're operating on this doctor. It doesn't fit the frame, and you know it doesn't. Okay? That is breaking the frame. It's outside of it. You think in terms of those frames, and they are physically realized in the neural circuitry of your brain. And one of the things that my colleague Jerry Feldman and his students at Berkeley have done is figure out the kind of neural computation needed to characterize frames. And it's actually pretty simple. There's a reason why we think in this way. Now, the other great result about frames is Charles Fillmore's. He's a member of my linguistics department, now retired, one of the great linguists in the world. He figured out that every word in every language is defined relative to a frame. Every word, like surgeon, or scalpel, or a menu for a restaurant, and so on. You understand it in terms of the structure like that. So this is normal. Frames are the most normal things in the world, and we'll see in a minute that they are thoroughly political. Then there's metaphor, and I'll tell you just briefly about that, because that is also thoroughly political. Let's take a non-political example.
Okay, so let's go back. Now I will replay this part so that you can get what he says. So let's do that again.
Frame analysis by Irving Goffman came out 1975. The linguistic work about it. The work on this was done in the mid-1970s. 1974. Frame analysis by Irving Goffman came out 1975. The linguistic work of Charles Fillmore. Goffman looked at institutions and studied them by actually working in them. He worked in an insane asylum and in Las Vegas as a croupier in order to study them. Very serious research. Had to go to Las Vegas. Very scholarly. Now, what he discovered was this. Every institution is structured by a frame, and it has two parts. Roles or frame elements. For example, take a hospital. You have doctors, patients, nurses, orderlies, receptionists, instruments like scalpels, places like operating rooms. Those are the frame elements. Then there are scenarios. What happens in this frame? So you know that surgeons operate on patients with scalpels and operating rooms, right? And lots of other things happen in the frame. So that is what a frame is, and you know the boundaries. For example, you walk into the hospital to visit a friend. You go to the reception desk, there's a doctor lying there, they hand you a scalpel, and they say you're operating on this doctor. It doesn't fit the frame, and you know it doesn't. Okay? That is called breaking the frame. It's outside of it. You think in terms of those frames, and they are physically realized in the neural circuitry of your brain. And one of the things that my colleague Jerry Feldman and his students at Berkeley have done is figure out the kind of neural computation needed to characterize frames. And it's actually pretty simple. There's a reason why we think in this way. Now, the other great result about frames is Charles Fillmore's. He's a member of my linguistics department, now retired, one of the great linguists in the world. He figured out that every word in every language is defined relative to a frame. Every word, like surgeon, or scalpel, or a menu for a restaurant, and so on. You understand it in terms of a structure like that. So this is normal. Frames are the most normal things in the world, and we'll see in a minute that they are thoroughly political. Then there's metaphor, and I'll tell you just briefly about that.
Okay, that's enough. Now, so please type into the chat windows the elements of the hospital frame that George Lakoff mentions in his talk. Did you get what he said? So what are the elements of the frame? For example, doctor. What elements? What other elements did he mention? Yeah, operation room, emergency. Okay, emergency room, nurses, patients, scalpel. Okay, let me add that. Good. Good. So, as you see, okay, when we think of the word like hospital, there's other concepts that are actually related to this key word and this key concept, and they are connected to each other like a network, and that kind of network is called a frame. Now I have a question. If you pay close attention near the end of the part that I have just played on our screen, George Lakoff said that every word in every word in every language is tied to a frame. Now, why does he say so? Every word in every language is tied to a frame. Well, the reason is yeah, every word in every language is tied to the frame. The reason is that because we understand every word as a structure. That is very important. Okay, so because we understand every word as a structure. Yeah. So I have put that into our chat windows. I'm sorry for the typing error. Now, so it is like this. Take the concept of car. And this is example that cognitive psychologist Barceló has used to illustrate the ideas of semantic of frames, and then Charles Fillmore uses it again to analyze the components of a frame. Now, when we talk about cars, there are the elements like the car driver, instantly connected to the concept. We also know that fuels are the fuel is essential for the working of the car, and for a car to work there should be engines, and then transmissions, wheels of the cars, and actually there are other concepts that can be related to this. So this is just like a partial frame of the concept. Now, according to Barcelou, there are two basic components of a frame. We have the attribute value sets and the structural invariants. Now, an attribute of the frame is a concept that describes an aspect of at least some category members. And in the image that you see on the screen, the attributes are shown as the ovals. So drivers, fuels, engine, transmission, wheels, seats, car seats, for example, car doors, they are all attributes. The value components of a frame are the subordinate concepts of the attributes. Like with fuel, we have different kinds of fuels. With engines, we have different kinds of car engines. So it's like they are the sub-networks of the attributes. And with driver, we also have different drivers who drive a car. Now, so the squares on the boxes on the screen represent the subtypes of the values of the attribute. And the most important thing is that these attributes are connected to each other in a fixed relation. That's what we call a fixed relation between the attributes inside a frame. Now, this is important as we move on to the next topic, because we will analyze some of the source domain, some of the target domain, and see how attributes from one domain align to attributes in another domain. So the structural invariants are represented by the bow arrows as you see in the image. Now, so basically Barcelou shows that the elements inside of frames are organized. So we have the attributes, and these attributes are connected with each other in a fixed relations. Now, Charles Fillmore claimed that meanings of words have internal structure like that, and this internal structure is determined by a background frame or background scene. And let's look at the example that Fillmore has given. I spent 3 hours on land this afternoon, and I spent 3 hours on the ground this afternoon. How do you know the differences in meaning between these two? Now, let me say that again. I spent 3 hours on land this afternoon. I spent 3 hours on the ground this afternoon. Now, we know that they are very different. So how do you know that they are different? Any ideas? Now, can anybody speak up a little bit?
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
Now, does anybody want to answer these questions? How do you know the difference in meaning between these two? Now, Thanh Quế, can you answer the questions? I have unmuted your microphone. Okay.
Well, I think about online, maybe I will differentiate between online and maybe out on the sea, something like that. But if I say on the ground, it may be about the level. I just really.
Yeah, you have some very good points there.
I think it's like on the ground, it may be about the level behind. For example, on the compared to the first floor, second floor, something like that.
That's interesting. So on the ground has something to do with height. Okay, and online, okay, doesn't deal with that, right? Well, thank you, Quế. Now I would like to hear another person. Dũng, can you? Dũng, I have unmuted your microphone. Can you share? Okay, what you think?
Well, I think the difference in the meanings between these sentences can be considered based on the view of the hearer. For example, if the speaker is speaking to a hearer who is on a ship, for example, so he may say, "I spent 3 hours on land
Good.
to receive the distinction between on land and at sea, for example."
Very good.
If both the speaker and the hearer is the same size and the same place, so he may say, "I spent 3 hours on the crowd," in order to differ from the crowd in the third floor or fourth floor, for example.
Well, yeah, I like your thinking, especially the examples about people in the first sentence being in a ship, okay, and then in the second example about people, their viewpoint is from a high building. Well, I see another post here from Big Ngọc. Can you speak up, Big Ngọc? Let me unmute your microphone. Okay, Ngọc, what do you think? Well, it seems that we cannot connect to Ngọc because the connection is not very good. Ngọc, can you try again? Yeah, Big Ngọc, can you try again? Okay, maybe the internet connection is not very good at the moment and we cannot hear Ngọc, but well, let me switch back to the listening
All
on.
attendees are muted.
Well, basically we know the difference between the two sentences thanks to two different frames. That's very important. We have two different frames here. In the first sentence, we have a frame of a sea voyage. Okay, so when you are taking a sea voyage, you can say, "I spent 3 hours on land." That means we are not at sea this afternoon for 3 hours. And the frame for the second example is that of the air travel, basically. So we say on the ground, to contrast with being in the air, being in the sky. So I spent 3 hours on the ground this afternoon. We say this when we are taking a transfer from one airport to another, for example. That's a little bit about the roles of the frames. Now, semantic frames have, the semantic frame theory has several significant contribution to the studies of vocabulary, lexicography, especially. Now, semantic frame help us to understand the construction of meanings of words, and it also helps us understand how new words and new expressions are built, and semantics frame has been very successful in its application in what we call computational lexicography. A frame-based lexicons give human beings as well as computer more information than the traditional lexicon. Computers are very stupid, and basically they need the analysis of semantic frame in order to understand the two sentences as being similar. For example, when I say Tom gives Mary a book. Okay, Tom gives Mary a book. Let me type that into the chat window. So, Tom gives Mary a book. And the second sentence, Mary gets a book from Tom. Now, as human being, we know that the meaning, the semantic meaning of the two sentences is exactly the same, but the computer cannot understand the difference. But when we analyze these two sentences using the frame semantic theory, so we have Tom, Mary, the object, the book, and we put all those things together with the verb in the frame. The computer understand that the frames that supports the construction of meaning in the two sentences are basically the same. And with that principle, the computers has made a lot of progress in speech recognitions and in the building of online dictionary in text analysis. Well, let's see a great work of George Fillmore that has been put into place. It's called the FrameNet project. Now, can you see the link on the screen? Please type yes or no into the chat window so that I know that you are still on. Can you see the link? Yes, okay. Now, I want you to click on that link. It will take you to the FrameNet project. This is a project for English under the leadership of George Fillmore. Basically, FrameNet helps us to see the frames of the lexical units in English. This is very much a work in progress, and it helps you to it's a very useful tool if you are studying words, meaning, and if you are studying semantics. Okay, I want you to search cook. Okay, so type cook into the search box. Now, are you on there? Then you have a table which say lexical unit, the frame, the status, the entry report. Okay, I want you to put your attention onto the second column, frame. Okay, frame, and then choose the apply hit. Now click on apply hit frame. Now you see a page explaining the elements inside this frame. So what are the framing elements for cook? Well, let me.
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
Now, Hoàng Yến, are you there? Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, looks like we cannot connect to Yến. Bảo Trương. Trương. Trương is not there too. Okay. So now, can you type into our chat windows the framing elements? Now, please type into our chat window the framing element that you can find.
All attendees are muted.
So what framing elements can you find? We have food, we have boiled. Okay. We have container. We have bake, roasted, cinnamon, chicken, degree, duration, time. In the kitchen, fried, oiled. Now, these are all the elements that make the frame apply heat, cook. Okay. Now, go back to the page and tell me what are the lexical units that evoke the frame. You should be able to see the lexical units at the end of the page. Now, so scroll down to the bottom of the page, and can you see the lexical units that are tied into this frame? So we have bake, barbecue, boiled, braised, brown, cuddle, cook, deep fry, grill, microwave, plank, poach, roast, etc. Now, okay, these are the lexical units that are timed to the frame. Now, the great thing about FrameNet project is that it is used to build the lexicons, the computational lexicon for English, and okay, other countries like Germany, France, and then several others are also working on similar projects to build their own computational lexicography. This is very helpful because it's understandable for both human beings and computers, and we can hope that in the very near future. Well, thank you for the list, Quế. Yeah, that is exactly what I want you to see at the bottom. Now, the frame semantic theories as a component of cognitive semantics will be analyzed in greater detail as we move on to the next unit. But and you see, it has very practical application right now for computational linguistics. So very soon we may have computers that understand human language. Now, this is our last slide. The theories of domains suggested by Langacker has a lot in common with the frame semantic theories of Charles Fillmore. So domains, as defined by Langacker, are conceptual entities of varying levels of complexity and organization. So, domain again is like a network of concepts at the conceptual level. So within the color domain, for example, we have blue, red, black, white, orange, the different color. Within the body domain, what you can think of? Well, there are lots, right? Within the body domain, we have legs, arms, face, ears, head, heart. Well, lots of other things. Their functions and their positions. Now, there are several differences between these two theories that I want to point to. In the theories of domains, Langacker also discussed another sub-theory called the domain matrix. A matrix is like collections of domains, like a domain of domains. Okay, so a matrix is defined as a range of domains that structure a single lexical concept. For example, when I say teacher, now this lexical concept, the teacher, this lexical concept is understood with reference to a variety of different domains like career and occupations, like locations, the place of work, schools, for example, the time that the teacher worked, the time frame or the schedule. So with the domains of teachers, we can have other domains like occupations. That's the part. We can have appearance, because teacher need to dress formally when they go to classroom. The location domain is also tied in here. The time domain also come in here. Now, another difference is that Lancaster discusses additional levels of conceptual organizations. That is the distinction between basic domains and abstract domains, as you can see some example on my screen. Lancaster also claimed that domains are organized in different levels or hierarchical fashion. You can take a look at the structure in hierarchy for the concept of knuckle. So you see that the knuckle, and join or the connection between the parts of the fingers can be understood with reference to the hand, and the hand again is understood basing on the domain of arm, and the arm again is supported by the domain of body, and the meaning of the body domain is understood basing on the space domain. And lastly, Lancaster theory's domain is more concerned with the conceptual ontology. Ontology here basically refers to the structure and organization of knowledge, while a few more semantic frame basically are used to explain grammatical behavior, and we will come back to this in the last part of our course. We look at cognitive grammar. Well, so we have been together for an hour and a half, and that's all for our discussion today about semantic frames and the domain theory. Before we stop, do you have any questions? I will switch back to the questions and answer mode so that we can hear each other.
By pressing *6.
If you have questions, you can type into the chat windows. You can raise hand. Yeah, click on my mode and raise hand, and then I will give the microphone to you. Okay, so it looks like you do not have any questions. Thank you very much, everybody, for spending time with me. It has been an enjoyable experience teaching cognitive linguistics online this way, and I can see about 30 participants. Actually, some of you are in and out. I guess several people have problem logging in. The meeting is being recorded, so it will be very soon available in our online system so that other people can see it again. Again, thank you very much for joining the meeting, and have a great weekend. So, bye bye.